let people know what is POAS and how does it differ from the more traditional and widely used ROAS metric, or return on ad spend?
Yeah, so return on ad spend is basically where you send the revenue to Google Ads, and revenue per product can be very different. So for example, some people maybe have one big campaign with all their products, but for one product you need a ROAS of 800%, and for the other product maybe 400%. So what are you going to do in that case? Are you going to put it on 800? Are you going to put it on 400? Or are you going in between? Right? It's very hard. Then you could also say, okay, let's split it, but then you have less data, and maybe that's not doable for every campaign, for example. So that's why it's a good strategy for sure, but I think POAS is much better because you can bid for every product, and if the POAS is above 1, you are making profit. So the big difference here is that with ROAS you are sending the revenue to Google Ads. So for example, the mic that I have is €100. Somebody buys it, that €100 is being sent to Google Ads. With POAS, for example, I'm making, let's say for example, €30 on this mic. I'm sending €30 to Google Ads. So that's the big difference.
Nice. And with that in mind, would you say that there are certain types of businesses that tend to benefit most from using POAS? Is this very much an e-commerce retail predominantly strategy, or can this work in other verticals as well?
Now this is definitely for web shops. And the thing with the web shops is that it can be for B2C but also B2B, because B2B is also getting a lot of more web shops. I think that's a trend in general for the last few years, and also for the upcoming years, that it becomes more normal to have a web shop as a B2B company, for example. And yeah, like I said before, with different margins, especially, this is very interesting. And the thing is, when you have a lot of products, you have a lot of different margins.
Yeah, so on that issue of margins, let's dig into that a little bit. So how can you ensure that you're accurately calculating your profit margins to ensure you're using POAS effectively? I know there are certain key costs that you need to be accounting for, and some of those might be slightly more hidden costs that are kind of easily overlooked or might sometimes be missed. So what are the key things that businesses need to keep in mind when they're calculating those margins?
So I think this is another part. Like the first part is, for what kind of businesses is POAS? So web shop, different margins, then it's very interesting. Then the second part is, the company needs to be ready. It needs to know their margins, for example, and it needs to install the cost of sold good for Google, or it needs to have a tool like Profit Metrics, for example. But you still need to have the margin, and you can do that in different ways. For example, when I work with WordPress, for example, and when I install Profit Metrics, it's just a field where I can add it in. But you could also, for example, send it with Excel. And with Google, for example, you need to install the cost of sold goods and also need to fill that in so that they know the cost of the good.